Hello everyone. As an early member of the Docker community, I'm very happy to be here with all of you and share what we have done with the Okteto Docker desktop extension to develop Docker Compose applications using remote development environments. But before that, let me introduce you to Jos, platform engineer at LaunchDarkly.
Hi, Pablo.
Hi Jos. We all know about LaunchDarkly, but can you tell us more about what you are building?
Yeah, totally. We are building a feature management platform with features such as experimentation and code references, and obviously a pretty advanced feature flagging solution.
And how is your development workflow?
Um, in order to keep our team fast and nimble, we want to have an easy way for every developer on our team to spin up a local development environment with a personal replica of LaunchDarkly. For us, Docker Compose was the obvious answer.
And why Docker Compose?
Developers love Docker Compose. One file to define your entire application and one command to spin it all up. Fast and easy. It's pretty great. However, as our solution and our team grew, we started to run into limits of what a developer workstation can run. That is why we started to use Okteto, which allows us to move our development environment to the cloud, hence solving the limitations of local dev workstations.
And how is your development workflow with Okteto?
Okteto supports Docker Compose out of the box, so it's great. For us, it just worked. We run one command, and Okteto provides the same experience as Docker Compose up, but you can you can run a mix of local containers and containers in a remote cluster. The remote development experience integrates with port forwards, hot reloaders, and debuggers.
Apart of offloading CPU and memory resources to the cluster, is there any other advantage of using Okteto remote development environments?
Yeah, Um, Okteto remote development environments run on Kubernetes namespaces. This allows us to have a mix of containers deployed with Docker Compose, and containers deployed with Helm charts, which gives us a more realistic development environment.
Awesome. And you know what? With the Okteto extension, you can have the same development experience with a single click. Let me show you how it works. From Docker Desktop, go to the Okteto extension. And the first thing is to log in to Okteto Cloud. Okteto Cloud gives you access to a namespace running on a remote Kubernetes cluster. All you need to log in is a GitHub account. So now let's get back to Docker Desktop. And now my extension is configured to talk to Okteto Cloud. I can also configure my extension to talk to different environments. At the end, Okteto can be installed on any Kubernetes cluster. But for this demo, I'll be using Okteto Cloud. So the next thing is to select the Docker Compose I want to develop. And at this time, Okteto is building the Docker images in my Docker Compose file, pushing these images to a registry running in the cluster, and then running my containers on remote. Let me show you the application I'm using for the demo. It's the well-known voting app to place votes between cats and dogs. Every vote goes through a Java service, then Kafka, then a worker in Go, then a database, and finally a Node.js component to show the results of my votes. This application is defined in this Docker Compose file, and I'm using this annotation to instruct the Okteto extension to run this container on remote. In this case, both worker, Postgres, and Kafka are running on remote, but result is running locally. Result is exposed on localhost 4000, and vote is exposed on localhost 8080. So let's access localhost 4000, and this is the UI of the result component. This is expected because if I run docker ps, the result container is running locally. But I can also access localhost 8080, and this is the UI of the vote component. This is working because Okteto is forwarding localhost 8080 into the vote container running on remote. If I place some votes here and go back to the UI of the result component, my votes are reflected here. This is because localhost 8080 is forwarded to the vote container on remote, And then the boat goes through Kafka, the worker in Golang, and the database. All these containers are running on remote. And then the result container running locally can connect to the database because Okteto is forwarding the database into localhost. Okay, so that way I can connect all my containers end to end. It doesn't matter if they are running locally or on remote. So now let's go to my local IDE, in this case is IntelliJ, and change my application. For example, to vote between local and remote development and save. At this moment, Okteto is synchronizing my files into the remote container. And to do that is using the host volume that I define in my Docker Compose file. So basically, this folder is synchronized into the container at this location. If I refresh my application, I can see my changes live. So it's the same experience as developing locally. I change my application and my application hot reloads. But let me show you something else. I'm also forwarding the port 5005 in the boat component. This is the debugger. And let me show you my debugger configuration. Here is attaching to a remote Java virtual machine, and I'm telling that the endpoint of my VM is localhost 5005. And Okteto is forwarding 5005 into the container running on the cluster. So let's see how it works. If I debug my application, I can see that my debugger is connected to localhost 5005. If I refresh my application now, it hits my breakpoint. And here I can see my environment variables. I can step in, step out, same experience as a normal debugger, but I'm debugging my application running on remote. So the idea is that with the Okteto extension, you can choose where to run your containers, locally or on remote. And for any of these containers, you have the same experience as Docker Compose. You can configure your hot reloader, mounting host volumes. You can access your application on localhost. You can attach your debuggers. And all these containers can be connected because they are running on the same network. If you want to know more about the Okteto extension, sign up for the beta on this link.
This is great. With the Okteto Docker Desktop extension, our developers can use Docker Desktop, a tool they already know and love, to deploy their remote development environments.
Exactly, that's why we did it. So I hope you all enjoy remote development with the Okteto extension.